Good morning, everyone. We are opening up the Committee of the Whole work session on this day, Tuesday, July 17th at 10:30 a.m. Our agenda has a variety of things. We have the minutes from the previous month. Today, we're going to have 3 presentations, one on deferred compensation changes, cyber briefing, which we'll dismiss for that discussion, and then come back for child care initiatives presentation. We also have in our packet the minutes from the Standing Committee, Airport Advisory Commission, Budget and Facilities Advisory Committee, Building Committee, Highway Advisory Committee, and Personnel Committee. So I will open the meeting now with our first presentation. Allison.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is my first CAL session. So what I have for you today, I want to present some changes that we're hoping to implement with our deferred compensation, our 457B plans that we offer as a benefit package for both our part-time and full-time staff. This is something that the Benefits and Wellness Committee has been working on, kind of tackling as an identified area of, I don't know if concern is the right word to use for it, but an area that could be improved in the benefit package again, as really one of the, I would say, a very important benefit that we offer. So I wanted to present these changes to you as the board in hopes that next week I will actually request action, and that is required first as part of our deferred comp policy, and because there are county funds involved, given the up to 3% match that the county as the employer provides to staff, that change actually does have to be presented to the board. So in the packet, I provided, or I attached the deferred compensation kind of presentation that we actually have received, we as the Benefits and Wellness Committee received from Edward Jones in partnership with John Hancock. So kind of some context behind what we will look at shortly is currently our benefit option for deferred comp. We've got 2 providers. So we've got long-standing business with MSRS, Minnesota State Retirement Systems, and then, but everything has an acronym, right? So MSRS, and then Nationwide has also been one of our providers. Now, over the years, we've seen some significant enrollment differences in the 2 plans. And also more recently, since I've stepped into this role, I've had employees reach out to me with concerns about customer service and other aspects of Nationwide. Even in the work that I do, in the communications we have to have with Nationwide, and I don't mean to be throwing anyone under the bus, but I think customer service is a huge part and should be top-notch when we're working with our benefits. That even the customer service and ability to get information or be able to communicate with our rep has been substantially subpar. So kind of taking a lot of factors into account, thus that kind of spurred looking at what are the other options and knowing that we have a local option, and why are we not looking at being able to utilize Claire in her role at Edward Jones. So in kind of compiling information of, is this a change we want to make? Do we want to make changes? Do we want to keep MSRS, keep Nationwide, add a third? Do we want to do away with one of the providers? We gathered the information from kind of a comparison of our plans, because ultimately I think besides customer service, we also want to look at, well, what is kind of maybe the monetary benefit of potentially switching plans. And I'm specifically looking at keeping MSRS, but removing Nationwide as a provider and bringing on Edward Jones. So in terms of kind of the information that we've compiled and was presented to us, the Benefits and Wellness Committee, and this says John Hancock because like many investment firms, like we have an administrator, we have our rep, which would be Edward Jones. We would work directly with Claire Smith down in the local office. But the record keeper, the organization that's doing all of the work kind of in the background, is John Hancock, which is why it says John Hancock. So still think Edward Jones for the information. So what we did is I had to gather our current financial package, our balance with Nationwide, and I was trying to locate the as of date, but it would have been sometime this spring. Is that kind of total value of the $1.7 million there in that top line. And then they do kind of a breakdown. Further in the presentation, you'll see a bunch of different other tables. So they compare the current products through Nationwide, and then they try to match them up with a similar product with Edward Jones / John Hancock, and then compare the administrative fees, because that's really where it breaks down to in terms of what is the cost or what would be the benefit for switching providers. So our current provider, Edward Jones, is on the left side. John Hancock, as the record keeper with the administrative fees, is on the right-hand side. So the very bottom, the total plan costs, these are yearly figures. There's, a fairly substantial difference in terms of the annual administrative fee. So right now, Nationwide is the highest of our providers at 1.18%, which based on the value of our current employee package, that would equate to a little over $20,000 each year. And that's money that's being taken out of our employees' accounts to pay for that administration, rep fees and whatnot in the background, versus John Hancock, or Edward Jones if you want to put it, between their administrative fees and then having like the rep fee like with Claire, it would come to almost half of that at 0.65%. And the 0.65% actually is also the rate of the fees for MSRS.
Yeah, if I may ask a question, Madam Chair, and Allison, how long have we been with Nationwide?
I think it's been, well, the last policy reference we could find was at least back to 2012.
Okay.
I don't believe we had Nationwide when I first started. I think they came on later, but we've pretty much always had MSRS.
Okay. And part of that question is when you're looking at it, is just understanding that when you establish a relationship with an entity like that, if you see incrementals once we've got you, and then we see those incrementals. When you evaluate, we evaluate, as you say, it could be costs or services provided, the benefit back to us, and customer service provided. And when you look at all those avenues, if you say, customer service is lacking, and a lot of times, I always say trying to get the best product that I can at the most competitive price without any babysitting. And if babysitting gets to the point that it negates those others too, you make a change.
Yeah.
But understanding also and evaluating moving forward is saying if their costs we see incrementally has creeped up because the relationship has been comfortable and assumed, and then you go into a lot of times you'll start low because they want to get your business, but you might see that cost go up.
Right.
And so if you look at a new provider, John Hancock, and you look and say, what has the history been with them, it would give you an indication of whether we would anticipate increasing costs or whether that low rate, half of what we're paying right now, how long can we continue that to continue?
Did you have a question?
I have a question too, I'm
Sure.
sorry. Do you know if that 1.18% includes the voluntary 0.5% increase for the people who have the more oversight over their plans? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know who has elected that, because that's only come up once.
Okay.
In an employee request. It's basically to have it self-directed, like a self-directed account. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
trying to remember the
more
terms.
oversight by, supposedly, by the
Yeah.
financial advisors.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. A lot of this terminology and lingo is still new. I'm not a financial advisor, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So I rely on a lot of, what the information, kind of education provided by Claire, and then Jonah, who's been the rep with John Hancock that we've been working with. So anyways, reduced costs, which would match our MSRS, the savings of roughly, $9,000 in essence is saved. It goes back into the account realistically of the employees that would be saving on the administrative fees. Like I said, the customer service aspect has been huge. This year so far, we've had 2 staff members cancel their accounts with Nationwide and open an account with MSRS. So I think that that's been pretty telling as well. So besides these figures, and I know there's other people waiting with longer presentations, but I just wanted to provide kind of a breakdown of what our employee enrollment actually looks like. And I just did there's not a ton of figures, but I plotted it out. So of our staff, we've got a total of 146 eligible employees that could enroll into a deferred comp plan. Again, part-time, full-time, elected individuals, that's 146. We currently have 130 employees actively enrolled in a deferred compensation plan. I wish we could say it was 100 because I think this is a great benefit. I think it should be mandatory. That's just my opinion because this is fantastic. But that's about an 89% enrollment. I'd like to try to creep that up a little bit and maybe switching to John Hancock or adding them. Edward Jones would be a way to kind of increase that final interest and cover the remaining employees that have not elected to enroll. Of the 130 staff, we have 109 employees enrolled in only an MSRS account, which equates to 84% of those 130 staff that are enrolled. We've only got 17 in Nationwide only, which is 13%. And then we've got 4 employees who have a contribution to Nationwide MS and MSRS, because you don't have to do either or. You could do a combination of whatever you wanted, however many accounts, which equates to about 3%. So given the fee savings that would go back into basically the pockets of the employees, paired with already the very little enrollment that we already see in Nationwide, paired with the movement that we're seeing with people asking about how to exit Nationwide and go to MSRS, that there's overwhelming support by the Benefits and Wellness Committee to bring forth next week the request to approve the changes in removing Nationwide and bringing on Edward Jones. And the nice thing with Edward Jones is that they would actually do all of the work in notifying Nationwide to basically do all of those changes for us. And it's pretty hands-off, which is nice. Yeah.
How much work is it for you to do this?
It will be no work.
Because there's a cost to that as well, right? When you have to do that
Yeah.
kind of work.
Yeah.
That would be
when you do the work, but if you don't
when
have
we
to
do the work.
yeah.
Yeah. But there's no additional charge for them to do that. That's part of their service because now they're getting business.
Right.
Yep. And like I said, we've had really great communication with our MSRS rep, Susan, which is why I'm not touching MSRS. It's been a great entity to work with, and we've got most of our enrollments in there. And then again, dealing with Claire Smith down at our local office, like hands down, she's fantastic. Jonah, who we've been talking to with John Hancock, has also been very responsive. So I'm very much eager to continue a working relationship with them. And so I just wanted to present this information to prepare you for what I hope to bring to the board meeting next week for actual approval. And then that timeline-wise, I'm presenting it today, trying to get it done before August because there is a time frame involved with them doing all of the work in the background to get us set up.
Before open enrollment.
Before open enrollment, yeah. Not only before the first of the year, but to prepare and have that information available for open enrollment for staff.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Has there been any conversation with Nationwide?
No?
Yeah. It seems like it would be advisable, simply because we've had a partnership relationship, just letting them know that given our experience, that from our staff, whatever, that we're looking to make a change and let them have an opportunity to speak to that issue, which helps give us perspective and understand. I just think it's an opportunity. If let's just say if we have somebody that wants to sell us something, that it's always positive when somebody comes in new, but learning from our relationship, as to what informs that decision is an important thing. And I know, like in insurance, that you can have a long-standing relationship with an insurance company, you just make the assumption that they're the best provider, but every year, as a matter of discipline, you get your insurance quoted just to see where you're at. And in the relationship that you're at, to learn from it is like an exit interview. What can we learn, and what's their response? And their response will further inform that your decision might be the right one.
Yeah, I'll reach out. There's been a lot of steps in this too, and we've talked about that at the committee meetings of, this is the first time I've made a change to a benefit that's involved commissioner involvement, because like when we change short-term disability, there's no employer contribution or payment for that, so it doesn't need to go to the board for approval. So I'm also kind of learning in those steps. I've communicated with the 20 staff, in this case 21 staff, that have accounts with Nationwide, to let them know that this presentation was occurring. This is our hope to make this change, and to let me know if they had any concerns or questions. And it was crickets. There was no response. So next I can reach out to
It'd be
our rep at
interesting just to
Nationwide.
see what their response is,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
it just reinforces your assumptions,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Mills?
I think there's a lot of wisdom there, and appreciate that suggestion. If you just a quick Google, there are concerns with John Hancock. So that would be, something I'd be concerned with too. What gives me a lot of confidence is our local representation through Edward Jones. I think there's a lot of weight there just to have that local face-to-face instead of somebody on the phone. And so I find that really exciting and encouraging. And then just hearing about the staff feedback and Allison's staff too, but having to deal with that side of things, there was a lot of concerns raised. I do want to note too, though, Nationwide is partnered with AMC, so I don't know what that means. If that's another avenue or resource, but, they might be willing to, it sounds like the issues have been not super acute. It seems like it's been a little bit longer term as far as responsiveness and that sort of thing. So I always want to give a little bit of grace, but then also don't want to get drugged along. So
Right, right. Yeah, and I would be, a little more forgiveful if it was kind of a one-time thing. But in the fact that I've been in this role for over a year and a half, coming up on 2 years, and I have to send an email, send an email, send an email. Okay, did you get this email? Over and over again, countless times, kind of put me at my max. And then hearing that also with that being a similar experience with our staff of attempting to try to reach anyone at that organization. So, yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would say certainly to Commissioner Mills' point that the relationship is huge, and you just find big organizations are big organizations, and you can get lost in the minutia. But if you have a personal relationship, that individual becomes your advocate. So if I'm doing a spreadsheet and I'm scoring things based upon what's attractive, that certainly is one element. I think that the relationship with AMC, you say what informed that decision, and you could, if the customer service is the big issue in this, we're looking at a financial thing, but we haven't talked to find out how competitive we get when we negotiate contracts, so to speak. But I would say when it comes to our health insurance, that if we're going to evaluate it based upon our experience, then for consistency, we have some big issues. And so there are some things that drive our decisions that we can do something about and some that we can't do something about. But
That one's a little more tied, but yeah.
Yeah.
Our hands are tied a little bit more on that one, but yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm glad you're keeping MSRS.
Yes,
Because they're
yes,
closely aligned with para
yes.
at the state.
Yep, absolutely.
And so
Mhm.
when you go to retire, having those things,
Mhm.
I can
Kinda more
speak
like
to this
centralized.
from a
Mhm.
certain level of experience.
Yeah.
That those things are, you can talk to one person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, go to one place. And that, there's a lot of convenience and help understanding
Yeah.
just sort of your full retirement package there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's just and I've had them since I started at the state
Mhm.
back in 93.
Yeah.
So,
And that's their focus,
That is
is
their
public
focus.
employees.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got not only deferred comp with them, but our healthcare savings plans as well. And again, same rep for both of those products, and she's been fantastic.
yeah, they really are focused on, you know, public, so
Mhm.
it's a good thing to keep that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in light of this coming to the agenda next week,
Mhm.
if you'd have time to get a hold of Nationwide, if somebody will answer the phone, or, yeah.
Email.
Yoo-hoo,
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
ready?
I'll attempt, yeah.
Then you
yeah.
can give us a little bit of background. there, too.
Absolutely, I sure will.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
appreciate it. So I'm just going to ask a question to Nancy and to Rowan. Do either of you have any time difficulties with being here for a while?
No,
No.
I don't, and I'd love to just wait for Grace, I don't think she can be here till a little after 11.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of why we arranged
Okay.
it.
Good, so one. So-
Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead then with cyber security briefing, and Rowan is going to lead us into that.
We have to
We
go
are
in the other room.
It's a.
Going into the, yeah, we're going into the IT room due to the sensitive nature of this information that's going to be presented, and the discussion will take place in a closed session as allowed by, under Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3. So now we will adjourn briefly and go into the briefing with Rowan Watkins.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. We'll resume our meeting. Moving on to childcare presentation. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks to all of you, board. I'm Nancy Deming, for those who may not remember. And right now, I'm the Children and Family Services Supervisor at PHHS. And I look forward to coming to this meeting all year long to be able to give you all an update on how childcare is looking in Cook County. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. I have a presentation that Jen is going to have for us. And I was able to get lots of pictures from our providers here in town. So that brings joy to my heart, too. 2024, the end of 2024, I guess it was here last July, and into 2025, we've kind of been a holding steady this year. We have several new projects that are just out in the works. And so I'll tell you a little bit about them coming up, but it seems like everywhere else we're just kind of holding steady for the year. So Jenna, push this button? Excellent, thanks. There you go. All right. So as a review, some of you have been here since the very beginning. You know, back in 2022, when Grace and I came to the board and talked about the need for childcare in our community. Many of you had heard that from other employers, from the families that you knew. It wasn't something that was surprising for you to be able to do. But here we are 3 years in. And one way that seems like we just started, and the other, it seems like this is the way it's always been. We really are blessed to have so many great initiatives here in Cook County. When I go and speak to other meetings, I'll have you know, they'll be like, oh, Cook County is like a unicorn. Like they just got all kinds of stuff happening up there. And it is just an honor to be able to go, yeah, we do. We would love to share and help other people get some of the things that we need. So, but our goals, even though this is our third year, just remain the same. That we want to be able to support providers who work in this early care and learning field, and we also want to be able to find some workable solutions for families. So I won't go into all of the history. Those of you who have been here know that what we've kind of gone through. So I'm going to do, last year I kind of came midway in July, so I'll give you the first half of the year of 2024. So I'm going to bring you the numbers and the stats for the entire year in case those numbers interest you. So last year, the total county investment in the wage enhancement program, if we just look at that part, was a little over $224,000. We supported 25 providers. At the end of the year, we had 25 providers caring for about 85 children. In 2024, we increased 2 licensed providers and gave 20 more childcare spots in that area as well. And we'll talk a little bit about how the number of licensed spots, if you go in and look on the DCYF site, and then compared to the number of children that are served and why sometimes there's a disconnect. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And we've spoken about that in years past, but we've kind of, oops, I don't know if I just skipped one. Nope, I didn't. Okay. As most of you know, the greatest need in Cook County and Grand Portage for childcare spots really is in that infant and toddler age group, right? And so if I go back and I can look at it, I think that right now we have somewhere about 120 licensed spots, give or take 5. In Cook County and Grand Portage altogether, we're only serving 85 children. The reason that there's a gap is because the gap is made up of kids who go to preschool at ISD 166. The gap is also maybe made up for school-age care spots. So those are open spots that providers have. However, there isn't really a need for those spots or in our community right now for our families. They're being met somewhere else. So that's why there's a difference. If you guys ever can look to see why we're having only 85 children served and we have 120 spots. We found over these last couple of years, actually it was, so it would have started in 2022, that ISD 166 added an extra preschool class. I went to full day preschool. That was their great solution to be able to help with the childcare needs. They didn't want to be able to open a childcare program in the school, that's a lot, but they thought they could add that extra class. So that would take the 3-year-olds out of our regular family childcare homes. So those 3-year-olds going leaves you with a lot of younger who aren't age eligible to go to preschool. These younger kids, and it really shifts how providers care for children. For family child care programs, which actually in our community are going to be Maria Conlon's, Maria Carlson's Cooperation Station, both Birch Grove programs are all licensed under Family Child Care. Each group only has 3 spots combined for infants and toddlers. They may be licensed for 10, 12, 14, sometimes you get to have 4 spots, but essentially you have 3 spots, usually 1 infant and 2 toddlers. That's all the spots that program has. So that's why we still need providers so that we can provide those infant and toddler spots, if that makes sense. And it changes your program. You can imagine if I have a bunch of 3, 4, 5-year-olds running around, the things they like to do, and now I just have 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds, the things they like to do. These are very different things. So a lot of providers needed an adjustment, and maybe the equipment, the play, the toys that they had in their program, what their schedules needed to look like. We've been working through that together, our team, along with all of the providers, to serve these younger children. A couple of things have also happened. And you may hear this from families that are in your areas, that several programs went to only having full-time spots, which means that they no longer would allow families to be able to have a part-time spot in their program. You needed to be full-time. You didn't have to bring your children every day, but you had to pay for your children to be there every day. And then some programs actually reduced hours. Maria Conlon's program used to be open 5 days a week. Now it's only open 4 days a week because she doesn't have another provider to be able to give her that break when she needs to go and do things for her family personally. So her solution was she was going to be closed on Friday so she could do things with her family, trying to find that balance. So we've had these different challenges as well, helping to support families in our community. Then what do they do with their kids on Friday? Because your boss may not say that you don't have to work on Fridays, even though you don't have childcare. So again, very complicated issues that we've just been working through one at a time.
Grace, are those your kids?
Yeah, those are my 2 of the.
Yes, those are the twins.
Who scored the lottery for me by getting them both into an infant toddler slot together,
Mhm.
part-time, because,
They look so much like the other
they
ones.
do.
Mhm. Yeah, they do. You can see the resemblance. And actually here, Maria Carlson and Cooperation Station, when they come back online, are the only programs that will allow part-time care. And those are highly coveted spots. So as always, I asked our providers, this is Maria Carlson, and so I shot of some of her kids that she sent me. I asked some of our providers to give me some feedback to share with you. And this is what Maria said to me via email. I have several letters and emails that I make copies of, and I'll leave those with you so you can have those as well to read them. I always love them. Maria said the wage enhancement program has helped me feel seen and valued by you and the community for providing an important and valuable service to working families and the children served. So please keep the momentum growing in a positive direction by continuing this important and much appreciated program. Here's just a little snapshot of what we used for grant funding to support childcare in Cook County throughout 2024. And our D grant last year was $250,000. Those monies were sent all over in little ways and big ways. The primary programs that were supported through that were the starting of the Birch Grove Seedlings program, which is aimed at serving infants and toddlers in Tofte. Northwoods Child Care also received several grants from that, the YMCA. And I have Alex here to maybe share a little bit too from his program. And then Step Up Child Care, which is the official license name of Maria Conlon's program as well. We worked through last summer with the MDE on a mixed delivery action lab, which helped bring, again, Alex was a part of that too, bring a bunch of us together who are in this early care and learning field to try and design a way that we can better collaborate for our families and our children as we transition kids from maybe private care over to ISD 166. How can we look at the Y and what they can help support in this same way, and Head Start as well. So we worked through that and then developed some resources for families that they can easily access to be able to find different things that could support their family with young kids here. The Northland Foundation continued to give us our child care mentorship grant, which we use to pay stipends, do coaching and whatever program supports we can. And then the Family Friend and Neighbor grant as well, that we had in 2024. Both of those grants have been renewed. They were among a state funding cycle, so those are both just renewed from the Northland Foundation for 2025, which goes into 2026. So as of July 1st, so those programs will continue as well. So I'm going to talk a little tiny bit about what some of those childcare initiatives were able to do this year. Cooperation Station, some of you may have listened to their interview on WTIP. That was just a day or two ago. I'm excited to be able to announce that they are reopening. Their planned reopening date is July 29th. We were able to, through the DEEP grant, help the Cooperation Station remodel their upstairs. That third level actually was just storage and office space. They remodeled that could be used as a living space for potentially a provider, because we know that housing is a significant barrier for them to be able to recruit someone here to work. So we were able to help pay for that, as well as some different equipment changes that they needed for their program. The YMCA, we were able to come alongside and help partner with them as they redid their playground. Alex, would you mind if I asked Alex if there was anything he'd like to share with us from the YMCA and his teachers?
Oh, yeah. So I went around and asked our teachers kind of what they thought about the wage enhancement.
Hey, Alex, you can.
They went to.
And actually, I'll start with Emily Marshall. You may know Emily. She was the executive director when the Cook County Y opened up. Still very connected with childcare. She says, "Thank you for your past support in helping us recruit and retain childcare staff. That investment has made a measurable and impactful difference. But the need hasn't gone away. Without continued stabilization funding, we risk losing qualified staff, reducing childcare availability, or forcing tuition increases that many families simply cannot afford. Childcare is not a family issue, it's a workforce and economic issue. To keep high-quality, reliable care in our community and keep families and businesses thriving, we need your continued support." So that is from Emily. And then from one of our infant room teacher, she says, "Thank you for the incentive. It has drastically improved our lives." And she says if there is not continued support, she first sees multiple programs shutting down, reducing childcare within the county. They don't do it for the money, they do it because they love the children, but they still have to pay their bills. Kim is our preschool teacher, and she says she's extremely grateful to be able to move into the Cook County community. She had moved from Superior, Wisconsin, where she was a child care director there for 25 years. And she says, "I'm not sure I would be able to do it without the assistance of the extra funding." So she's very appreciative of the support that everybody in this county receives. And then another one of our toddler teachers says, without the funding, she simply could not live in Cook County. It's an expensive place, rent is high. She says, "I could probably make more money waitressing, but I don't want to because I care for the community and for the families." So that is what our teachers have to say. I just want to say thank you for the support that you guys are bringing to childcare within Cook County. We ended up going to full-time because it was a financial decision that we had to make. The part-time slots, if someone's not there on Monday and Tuesday, then we don't get paid on Monday and Tuesday, and that's how we keep our doors open. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important thing to know, that people didn't change to say we were going to only have full-time spots because that was easier for them.
Yeah.
It really is just the financial, the profit margin in childcare is so minute that any kind of little bump and just, yep, that has to be done now. So he's not the only, certainly the Y isn't, because that's very common and a very common trend. Most childcare centers require you to be full-time. That's just, if you're
Yeah.
going to have your child there, that's what it's going to be. Especially if you have an infant and toddler spot, because they can't afford to have like 1 or 2 days for those spots to be open, if that makes sense. Yeah. Any questions for Alan?
Thank you.
Thank
so much,
you.
Alex. I appreciate your patience. We were hiding here getting some work done. Thanks. So in addition to what we help with that playground and the fencing and the removal of the old fencing, those things all cost dollars. So it's nice to be able to have D dollars and say, yep, we can help. If your funding ran short or it cost more than you thought, we can help come alongside of a grant they already had to do that playground renovation. And we also were able to help one of his staff people through early childhood certification get that training that she needed as well. In Northwoods, in cooperation with First Congregational Church, that's where that childcare is located, if you didn't know. And their playground has been there since probably I was born, maybe. So we were able to kind of help bring some of that back up to the licensing code, help them to do that. Because Northwoods uses their playground as their own playground. But again, it's also open to the community. Kids come and play there who are around in our neighborhood. As well as that the deck that goes into Northwoods, we are making that handicap compliant, so they're redoing that so that it'd be easier for people to be able to come up in wheelchairs or walkers or whatever they might need into that entrance. Birch Grove Seedlings, it's a program that's open just right across the hallway from the Saplings program, but according to how we license, they are actually 2 separate programs run by Birch Grove. So it's fulfilled a need for those younger childcare spots in Tofty. I'm so glad. I can't imagine having a young child driving them to Grand Marais, driving back to Tofty, every day for work if that's what you needed to do, but so glad to be able to do that. And then our outreach, many of you, if you come from, this is the East End, into Grand Marais, you'll see like we have a big billboard that has from our Cook County North Stars, there's been advertisements in our papers and on WTIP and NPR. So spreading the word that we are also still looking for childcare providers and also hoping to connect families to the different programs that they may need for their children. One area, well, that's my dad. My dad and my niece. Anyway, one area that we're seeing a lot of growth in, but it's slow because we're working relationship by relationship, is this growth of family, friend, and neighbor providers. I was fortunate to be able to go and talk on WTIP about what a family, friend, and neighbor provider is. And that's just the people, a child's grandparent, their relatives, those are providing care for your children. And actually they estimate somewhere between 50 and 60% of all child care in greater Minnesota is provided by family, friend, and neighbor providers, because there really isn't, it's not financially feasible many times to have a child care center, and we're losing family child care providers in Minnesota. And 2024 at a rate of a little over 27% of family child care providers we're losing every single year in the state of Minnesota.
Which we are not in Cook County, though.
Which we are not in Cook County, which is just an amazing achievement, I think. I'm looking, and when I go and I'm in licensor meetings all around our region, and they'll be like, well, we have this many new ones, and then we lost this many, and I don't have to say we didn't lose any, and we still have them, including Cooperation Station that's opening. But one thing that we are able to do, this is in cooperation with the Northland Foundation, is that family, friend, and neighbor providers here in Cook County, we have a renewable $500 grant that they just fill out the form, and then Northland sends them a check. They could use that for anything that they may need. We also support family, friend, and neighbor providers, so they need car seats, so they need cribs in their house, whatever it might be. We have grant funding for that. Why should you have to switch car seats from mom's car to grandma's car? Just get them both car seats. We have a different funding for that. So I really appreciate being able to do that. DCYF also has a one-time $500 grant for family, friend, and neighbor providers. So this is just getting the word out. If those family, friend, and neighbor, another word for them officially is a legal non-licensed provider that you may have seen, that's what it's called in statute. If they do those things that we ask legal non-licensed providers to do, which is really take CPR and do a basic safety course, we allow them to receive wage enhancement funding as well. So that's what we have to support this group of growing providers. It was really, when I spoke at WTIP and when we finished up, I had 2 people in their office ask me tell me about their childcare situation and ask if one had an in-home nanny and then one essentially was had a relative watching their kids, and I said, yes, send them to me. Here's my card. Have them send me an email. We'll get them signed up and they can meet. Have all of these different things that can be helpful to them. So just getting that word out that we have supports for that as well. So talking about Cooperation Station, they have been closed for almost 11 months. They're scheduled to reopen on July 29th. The reason that they have been closed is they've been unable to find that primary care provider to be able to fulfill that. So when you lose your primary care provider, theirs moved to the cities, but their husband relocated for a job. We've just been searching for that replacement. They have a letter of support that shares a little bit about their struggle and about how much they appreciate the initiatives that we have. So I will leave that with you when we are finished. So these are the different things that we do outside of, some that are grant funded, but that we do to help in the community. We do the mentorship grant and training to both Northland Foundation and the DEED grant. We do mentorship meetings once a month, and we're able to provide stipends to providers. So we meet for an hour and we send them a $100 check. Well, we really send it once a quarter, so we send them a $300 check if they're there, because we value the time that they set aside in their evening when their program is closed to be able to be with us, and we have grant dollars to fund that. We provided licensing and technical assistance in January. We hired a new licensor and childcare coordinator, so she's really able to work with our providers like I did with all the changes that are happening at DCYF for childcare in the licensing regulations. Going online, everything has to be online now. We have all kinds of concrete supports for providers. Maria Conlon needed a new refrigerator. Hers went out. Last year we helped Maria Carlson with her washer when that went out. So those sort of things, when you have this much of a profit margin and you need a $1,000 refrigerator, suddenly like that's a problem. So for us to be able to have those funds for them to know they can call and we can help connect them to those concrete supports is really, really a blessing for them. And then we are constantly advocating to our representatives, to the state. I was fortunate to be able to go and speak to the state legislative family committees with Senator Hochschild this past spring, I guess that would have been, and working with the Kids Count on Us group, which is the same one that had Representative Scraba, Aaron Murphy, and Grant Hochschild that all came to speak to us about childcare last year as well. So our innovation that we have in Cook County continues to be noticed. I've really been fortunate to be I went to speak at the regional conference for First Children's Finance about our RCIP team that we had in 2022 and sharing a little bit about how we are working on our different initiatives in our county. I get requests all the time from other counties to speak to their boards, to come and talk to the programs. And we have, since I've also spoken to the National Association of Counties last year. Right now I'm working with the state of Colorado, which is where I'm from, on being able to give some of the information that we have that has worked for our providers in collaboration with the state of Colorado, working with their programs through that National Association of County connection that we had, because they have some there on the western slope as well that we're working with. So it's not just here. What we're doing in our little county with 5,600 people is spreading, and we're able to represent Cook County all over the place, and it is really, really fortunate for us, I think. So let's look and see what wage enhancement is this year. This is 2025. For those who don't know, currently we started back in 2023 with $5.07 an hour. Now we're up to $6.11 an hour for each hour provider works caring for children in 2025. So far, that's been a county investment of a little over $84,000. We've continued to retain 26 providers. And upcoming projects at 1 o'clock, in a half an hour, I'm going to Great Expectations to talk to their board. They're interested in starting a childcare program in their extra space they have there. and I didn't put on the slide, but starting July 1st, we have another deep grant. That's a $385,000 grant. We have to support childcare between now and the end of December. So I'm excited about Great Expectations Thoughts, and also spoke with Gary Lance yesterday about the Heights Stage 2, about putting a childcare center, as we've been working together since the beginning. He's on our Childcare Solutions Subcommittee, and working out the details of how we can help get that childcare program that will be situated right inside the housing development as well. So, Leah Leonard, she also has a letter here. She's actually a county employee, and I wanted to put this little quote here from her in her letter, where she said, "Earning a livable wage in our community is difficult, and that she believes the people we entrust with our children should not have to struggle financially, especially when they're providing such an essential service." Again, here's just a little bit of an overview of some of the things that we did. I already spoke to those things. We have consistently heard from DEED, from the Department of Education, that we work with the Department of Health, CCYF, and the Northland Foundation, that all of our grant applications are so much stronger because we have these 3 years that we've been working to support child care. So we're really fortunate to be able to have those things. So it's always a balance, right? We want to try to build sustainability. So here is what we're looking at for now and in the future. According to our latest study, we need 98 more childcare spots in Cook County. I'm pretty sure 96 of those are for infants and toddlers. But the cost of care for providers, we went over a lot of that last year. It's higher for these younger age groups. You can imagine if you just use a little number, let's say you needed to make $500 a week, 3 of your spots are filled with infants, toddlers. You're missing your preschoolers or school-age kids. You have less children to be able to meet whatever it is that you need to have to make your business break even every week. So the cost of care is much higher. For family child care and for child care center, they always, kind of the rule in this business is that you do not make any money in a child care center on your infant or your toddler rooms, because the ratio for teachers is so high to students. So you only can have 4 infants for every teacher in an infant room. You can have 7 toddlers for every teacher, which sounds delightful. And you can have 10 preschoolers. So again, that cost of care for providers is higher with this younger age group we're serving. And right now, in Cook County, the average cost of care for families is $226 per week per child, which is a little over $11,000 a year of child care for a family to pay. So again, higher cost of care for families and that cost of care for providers. So that is the end of what I have to share with you. And as Alex had said, I want to just express my gratitude for your continued just support. As I go throughout the community and talk about child care initiatives, everything that I hear is just so positive and supportive right now, and then hopefully won't be by tomorrow. But next month's board meeting in August, I'd like to just be able to submit some extra documentation. We are working on a follow-up survey to what First Children's Finance originally did with the RSIP team, which is the Rural Child Care Innovation Program. It was a grant that we had in 2022, the beginning of 2021, beginning of 2022, which kind of helped kick off all of this talk around childcare. So we are following up with that same study, and I would love to be able to give you the results. We probably won't have them until the end of the month. And so we're asking employers, what's your thoughts now on how childcare? Has it improved? Is it the same? Where do we need to improve? We're asking parents the same, providers the same, and being able to compare that to what the results were back in 2021, early 22 when we did that study. So I will, with your permission, submit those results to you, and they should be back in time for the August board meeting. Grace, is there anything you want to add as a mom of 2 young children right now that are in childcare, another one that's in preschool?
Well, right now in the summer, yeah, he'll be in kindergarten, but in the summer, yeah, all 3 of them are in daycare 2 days a week. And we, you know, as a county benefit, we have like a pre-tax dependent care account, and we basically spend the whole amount in the summer to cover care in the summer, and we still have part-time care for the 3 kids. But the fact that we have spots for 3 kids part-time is amazing. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. But back in 2021, I mean, I remember in 2021 having 2 providers close within 3 months during the pandemic, and that was so hard. So the fact that we haven't had that turnover in providers has been hugely important for families.
Well, I think we all express our gratitude to you and to Grace. I remember joining the committee 3 years ago and watching and seeing the progress that we've made here. More to be done, but it goes by little steps. There's no big leaps here, by little steps. And being able to open a place in Birch Grove and Tofty and all of that, so just gratitude.
You know, I think we had a lot of conversations in this community about infrastructure, but I think you really have to say that for a thriving community, part of infrastructure are schools and daycares. If you want to attract young families, if you want to keep that balance in our community, you have to have this, and that's as important as water systems. So really appreciate the work you guys have done. It's amazing.
And the possibilities of new areas opening up
I know.
also. So we don't want to keep you, have another exciting meeting with that going on.
So it was 176 filled spots currently, and we need 9, or what?
There's 85 kids in
85.
85 kids right now.
Okay,
That
and then
was-
we need
no, That
90.
was last month.
Okay, yep.
I just gave you
Yep.
the most one.
Yep.
We need 98 more for that, yeah, to be where, and it's something they say, actually First Children's Finance does, and they do it for all the different cities, and I certainly have the latest one, and can send that to you, that you could take a look to see where those numbers come from, and they use market analysis, they use AI, weird stuff maybe, but to come up with that number, but, yeah, they're definitely, speaking of Lee, I work really closely with her, she writes our checks, PHHS, and she has found care for her daughter, who's just one, but sometimes when the child care, with the families that we just have in our department, when child care becomes an issue, that stress that it provides, that puts on that parent who's here trying to do their job, now child care is a stress, and I think sometimes our jobs are stressful too, so where does it come to a point for a parent that's like, this is just too much, like trying to figure out the child care and be at work, it's not worth that, and so we lose valuable people in our workforce because of that. So finding ways to be able to, however we kind of piece it together so that we can have those valuable people on our teams in our offices every day.
It'd be interesting to have a profile. I don't know that the report shows it, but the demographic of the people that use child care. So if we had that element, then you see who you are serving.
Yeah.
So it'd be beneficial to know that. When you look at our county and the demographic in our profile, and you see the population, the age demographic, you can see that I think we've moved into the #1 spot of the 87 counties with those that are retirement age or older. And so if we look at young families, for years we've been talking about wanting to encourage young families that have been generational, that'll continue to stay here. But we say that, but we haven't created the infrastructure, so to speak, to enable that to happen. And it's multifaceted. It's not just the child care, the education, and it is the income opportunity, the cost of living, all of those things. But when we're looking at things to inform those things that we support and we get behind, the more that we can understand the demographic, the better it is.
Well, so the reason I was asking about just what we've got now, and it was on the slide and I didn't write it down, was because from my perspective, our first goal was to really try to stabilize the provider aspect of it. And so you'll know better than me if it has stabilized, or if it's stabilized enough, or clearly there's still a need, so maybe not. But then on the other side is helping the families pay for that. And so just trying to figure out.
Touch that quite.
Right.
yet.
No,
But
no,
I do
first
think
things first, but yeah.
the stabilizing, we have not seen program closures.
Right.
So I think using that as a metric, I mean, Cooperation Station somewhat of an anomaly, but the fact that they're reopening is positive.
Very encouraging.
But I do think that we've stabilized the, I don't know how you feel about it, but just
No,
looking
I
at.
know.
And there's still a need,
Looking
though,
at
so-
There is.
closures though, is using that closure
Yes.
data as a metric, I feel like that does show
For sure,
that
for sure.
we've stabilized things.
Yeah, where is that balance then, do you think, between, just the provider versus the parents,
I
right?
think
Like, how
what's
do you?
hard
Yeah.
with the parents is, I think where we're getting to now is this challenge with infant and toddler spots, and like Nancy said, there's just an inherent financial challenge because of the ratios to care for children under the age of 2. And that's just kind of the reality of this. I think we're doing good things that are helping, but the fact that that continues to be the unmet need makes sense to me,
Mhm.
given just the amount of time and energy it takes to care for those kids,
Mhm.
given that ISD has a thriving preschool program. That makes a lot of sense. But as for the parent and the cost side of things, it gets to be a different conversation that I feel like would need some different
Yeah.
additional approaches, because that is still a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge, and
One that speaks to Commissioner Gamble's point about the demographic.
and
like who's getting
I will
served
say,
and who's
just
not.
anecdotally, when, I've had kids in daycare now for 6 years in Cook County. And when I go into a daycare, and I've had my kids at the Y, now Maria Carlson's Cooperation Station, the other families who are there are largely county employees, Forest Service staff, school employees, clinic and hospital employees. So, not entirely, but that is the primary demographic using
And
childcare
I would say
services.
that would be the assumption.
Mhm.
But it's understanding that so that you can have, conversations that are well-informed in addressing real issues. I would say that the requirements that come in care relative to, infants is certainly part of again, those requirements that are set up and established force you to be able to do what you have to do, which adds a cost element. I'll just off the cuff use an example that the Boundary Waters, you could go into the Boundary Waters with a group of individuals and 2 guides, and you could make it financially feasible because you could have enough participants. When they went to, you could only have a total of 9, it put a restriction. So that means that program might be jeopardized by the fact, depending upon where you're coming from to transport those people to get to the Boundary Waters, it's no longer feasible unless you push that price up, which then makes it accessible to fewer people. The other thing I would say, when we look at the percentage of closures, if it's 27%, whatever, we have to understand that in context. Why are they closing? If it's closing because it's not profitable, or you can't keep the doors open, or if it's closing because our population is decreasing in that area, and we don't see the refueling, so to speak, of that age group, understanding these things in context helps us to respond in a way that meets need. So.
That, I feel like there's some research on why the programs are closing.
There are, we keep track of, how many of them are retiring. So that's just different. People are gonna get older and be like, I'm not chasing a bunch of little kids, so they're gonna retire. So in my mind, that doesn't really count. I mean, people are gonna be retiring, right, on all of our jobs. But if they're leaving, if people are leaving the profession because of the barriers, because it's become too complicated, the work is too hard, whatever those things are things we can address and be able to protect, to be able to find a solution for, so that hopefully those people can remain in their spots. But there is research, they do track that, so we can look that across county and across Minnesota. To be able to
And part of it could be, it's becoming too encumbered.
It is.
In other words, that there's the requirements, and what our focus is, we can lose sight of our focus, which the heart of the matter is serving and mentoring and encouraging and nurturing kids.
Yeah.
And if the paperwork, it's similar in public health human service, where we just find there's a lot of things that are encumbered. The people that we attract are people who have a heart towards people. And when we find that the minutia, it's not heart, driven, it's driven by, I gotta do this and do this and do the paperwork. There's so many examples I could give in this regard, but the point is that that if we look at this and try to understand that, then we try to create structures in which we can be successful in what we're trying to do, which is provide a healthy, growing environment for young kids. And if the fact is that we don't have people, a workforce to be able to fill those positions because of retirement, whatever, that's one aspect of it. But if we don't have the need in other markets for childcare because our population in that age group is decreasing, that is an issue. So I'm just saying it's multifaceted, but the more that we devote ourselves to understand that, the better we can inform our direction. So, yeah.
So again, thank you, Nancy and Grace, for your input, and Alex also, thank you. And we'll look forward to another get-together. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. If you have more questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. I'm happy
Will do.
to talk about kiddos.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just gonna say, these guys are the A-team right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
These are both rock stars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
So I can just leave these here.
Okay.
And I didn't staple them, but there's like a set.
Okay.
There's a dozen of them there, so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jana. Thanks, commissioners.
And there'll be no other business. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I'm going to do this on Friday, so.
I'm not gonna do it now.
Yeah.
Wait till.
Wait till your phone gets there.
Or
Have you tried with